President Trump unleashes on all his enemies and lays out his 2020 strategy. Plus, we have Jussie Smollett updates, and we check the mailbag. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Well, first, I want to thank everybody for continuing to make The Right Side of History, my new book, the #1 nonfiction book on the New York Times bestseller list. It is still the #1 nonfiction book on all of Amazon, which is astonishing. Oprah has a new book. We're ahead of her on Amazon still, thanks to you. So really, thank you so much. I think it's an important book. Tell all your friends about it. We'll get to all the news, particularly President Trump, who just basically threw a rager in Michigan last night. It was pretty amazing. We'll get to that in just 1 second. First, let's talk about how you make your company better. Hiring. It used to be hard. Multiple job sites, stacks of resumes, a confusing review process. But today, hiring can be easy. You only have to go to one place to get it done. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter sends your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards. But they don't stop there. With their powerful matching technology, ZipRecruiter scans thousands of resumes to find people with the right experience and then invites them to apply to your job. As applications come in, ZipRecruiter analyzes each one and spotlights the top candidates so you never miss a great match. ZipRecruiter is so effective that 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the very first day. Right now, my listeners can try ZipRecruiter for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. It's why we use it here at the Daily Wire offices. You should use it at your business too. ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. And you can try ZipRecruiter for free. ZipRecruiter, again, the smartest way to hire. Okay, so President Trump basically laid out what his 2020 campaign is going to look like. And there are good points and there are bad points. He did it last night in Michigan. Michigan is a state he won extraordinarily narrowly over Hillary Clinton. He beat her 47.3% to 47%. It is trending a little bit blue because in the last election cycle in 2018, a lot of Democrats won. The senatorial candidate, John James, over there, a really good, solid Republican candidate, military background, African-American, he lost, which was too bad. The fact is that President Trump's reelection essentially hinges on 3 states: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. That's it. And that's the whole election. He will probably win Ohio. It's debatable whether he wins Florida. It depends on the Democrat. If he loses Florida, it's over. He has to hold all of the states that he held last time except for one. He can lose Wisconsin and still win the election. He could lose Pennsylvania as long as he holds Wisconsin and Michigan. But he cannot lose 2 of those 3 or the election is over. So Michigan is a crucial battleground state for him. Well, in the aftermath of the Mueller report's top-line findings being released, President Trump was ready to go on a rampage. And rampage he did last night in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Half the rally was about how much he hates the media and how much he despises the people who pushed the Russia collusion hoax. And then half the rally was dedicated to him actually attacking the Democratic positions. Now, all of this is good, right? All of this is good for Trump. Trump's pitch in 2020 is very simple. I have been targeted like no other president in history by the media. I have been called a Russian stooge for 2 years because they couldn't get over the fact that Hillary Clinton lost. And yet, in spite of that, we've made all of these gains on the economy, on foreign policy. We're rebuilding our military. We're cutting regulations. We're making it easier to do business. Imagine what a second term of this will be if the media get over themselves and actually allow me to do the work that I need to do. That's the argument that President Trump should be making headed into 2020. But President Trump is nothing if not, as he likes to call himself, a counterpuncher. This has its upsides and it has its downsides. And so we return to Campaign Trump. Campaign Trump, who, as I have described in the past, is a hammer in search of a nail. Sometimes he hits a nail, and it's very satisfying. And sometimes he hits a baby, and it is far less satisfying. Last night in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a pent-up crowd. I mean, the crowd was just ready to roar at the slightest provocation. Here was the President of the United States describing what he called the collusion delusion.
After 3 years of lies and smears and slander, the Russia hoax is finally dead. The collusion delusion is over. The special counsel completed its report and found no collusion and no obstruction.
Okay, so he's right about all of this, and this is a fair ground for him to go after the media and to go after the Democrats who lied about him for 2 continuous years on this basis. The president also suggested that this was the greatest hoax in history, which, frankly, it may well have been, considering that the media legitimately spent 2 years proclaiming that undoubtedly there would be evidence that he was a Russian cat's paw. You heard the same thing from members of the intelligence community. It really was astonishing. People talk about the failures of the intelligence community in the lead up to the war in Iraq. There was a widespread intelligence consensus from Israeli intelligence, British intelligence, French intelligence, German intelligence. There was widespread consensus that Saddam Hussein was developing WMD because Saddam Hussein wanted the world to think that he was in fact developing WMD. That was an intelligence failure. What we watched here was not an intelligence failure. What we watched here was members of the intelligence community leverage their institutional credibility on behalf of a narrative that was absolutely not true. We watched James Clapper, the former head of Obama's CIA, go out there in public and suggest that he actually was the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, go out there and suggest that he had special knowledge that President Trump was probably in league with the Russians. We heard the same thing from John Brennan, Obama's former CIA director, that he had some inside baseball knowledge based on his institutional knowledge that suggested that Trump was all of these things. We watched members of the media come out nearly every day and simply suggest, without benefit of evidence, that it was absolutely clear the Trump campaign had thrown the election with the help of Russia. So when Trump says this is the greatest hoax in history, there is a pretty solid case to be made on this basis, at least in the history of American politics.
All of the current and former officials who paid for, promoted, and perpetuated the single greatest hoax in the history of politics in our country.
Okay, so obviously this is a basis for him to get the base revved up. The question is whether this is a basis for actually campaigning. And the more Trump focuses on this going forward and doesn't talk about his record, doesn't talk about what he has done, doesn't talk about what the Democrats are, the more he keeps the focus on himself as victim. I don't think that that is going to be a continuing effective strategy other than getting the base really revved up, which is good. You need a revved up base. But President Trump needs to win a bunch of voters who are in the middle. He needs to win suburban women. I'm not sure this mode carries him here. And the more worked up he gets over this, again, I think that that's not great strategy. I understand it on a personal level. If somebody had accused me of what they accused President Trump of, I'd want to go out there and club some folks too. I'd want to go out there and club the media like a baby seal, rhetorically speaking. But as a politician, I'm not sure this is the smartest strategy. Again, the more exercise Trump gets, the more off-putting he is, frankly, to suburban women in particular, people he needs to win in 2020. President Trump obviously got himself revved up. He has a friendly crowd here. Here he says that continuing probes, continuing investigations are ridiculous bull bleep. He just dropped some curse words.
The Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit, partisan investigations, or whether they will apologize to the American people and join us to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure.
Okay, all of that is fine. Then he goes off the rails, and this is where he gets into bad Trump territory. So this is a pretty good episode, actually, of Good Trump, Bad Trump, which we haven't done in a while because the focus has largely been on the Democrats who are vying to compete with him. All of this is okay Trump to good Trump, and then he gets to bad Trump. And this is where he just starts slinging insults at people that he doesn't like. Now, I'm a podcast host. I can sling insults, although I try not to, particularly on the basis of physical appearance. President Trump has no such compunction. Here he goes after pencil neck Adam Schiff.
Little pencil neck Adam Schiff. He's got the smallest, thinnest neck I've ever seen. He is not a long ball hitter. But I saw him today. Well, we don't really know. There could still have been some Russia collusion.
Okay, it's funny. I'm sorry, that's funny. It's also not useful, but it's funny. But again, the president is not a stand-up comedian. Is it smart for him to be going back into stand-up comedy mode? This is what his base loves about him. I understand. A lot of people find this I find it entertaining. It is inherently funny. This is the thing about Trump that I think a lot of folks in the media don't understand. Folks on the left don't understand either. Dude's actually pretty funny. Right, dude, he plays a room as though he's an actual stand-up comedian. Is it smart, however, to go after Adam Schiff on the basis of his neck? Like, wouldn't you just go after Adam Schiff by saying that he's a dummy or a dunce or a liar? Like, that seems like a more solid grounding. On the basis of his neck, look at him. He's got a turkey neck, like Jennifer Lopez and Jay the Gabba Gabba. What in the world? That actually was not even the funniest thing that he said last night. The funniest thing that he said last night, he was talking for some reason about the Great Lakes, because Michigan is in the Great Lakes region, and he starts talking about how much he loves lakes. Come on, this stuff is funny, man.
I support the Great Lakes. Always have. They're beautiful. They're big, very deep. Record deepness, right?
Okay. I got nothing, man. I got nothing. Again, none of this is going to particularly hurt President Trump. It's not going to hurt him. But his tendency to be President Trump is exactly the problem. Like, there's a speech here somewhere, but it was buried inside a comedy routine. And the comedy is great for people who agree with you. Comedy is not great for people who really disagree with you, unless it's self-deprecating comedy. Self-deprecating comedy is popular with pretty much everybody. Trump has never made a self-deprecating remark, so it's nearly impossible to imagine him doing that. Comedy is great for all the people who like President Trump or who agree with his agenda or agree with him on these issues. For people who are torn on President Trump, it's not going to do him any significant favors. And again, I'm looking at this from the strategic point of view, not from the is it funny point of view, because from the it's funny point of, I mean, it's just damned hilarious, obviously. Now, in a second, we're going to get to President Trump's actual attacks on Democrats, because the less he focuses on his victimization and the more he focuses on their garbage agenda, the better he is going to do. We'll get to that in just 1 second. First, let's talk about that watch on your wrist. Did you spend a lot of money on that watch? Is it a watch that measures like how many steps you take, every move you make? They'll be watching you. Is it that kind of watch? Or did you just get, a nice minimalist watch, a watch that really tells you the time and looks nice? Because that's what movement watches are all about. You see this? This is a really nice watch. This is a movement watch. Behold it. Cast your eyes upon it in despair that you have not one, but you could have a movement watch, and you could do so for a relatively inexpensive price. They have all sorts of new styles and new features, and they've got watches and sunglasses and other accessories. Movement watches are all about looking good while keeping it simple. Movement watches start at just $95. You're looking at $400 for the same quality from a traditional brand. Clean design, minimalist, really quality products. Movement has sold almost 2 million watches in over 160 countries. Get 15% off today with free shipping and free returns by going to mvmt.com/Shapiro. Movement's launching new styles on their site all the time. Check out their latest at mvmt.com. That's mvmt.com/Shapiro. I love my Movement watch. You will too. Join the movement right now. mvmt.com/Shapiro. Okay, so as we say, President Trump launches this Michigan campaign, really his 2020 reelection campaign, off the basis of the Mueller report. And that just shows you how polarized our politics are, because usually the president launches his reelection campaign on the basis of, here are all the great things that I've done. Instead, the president launches his triumphant reelection campaign on the basis of, I'm not a Russian agent. So the goalposts have moved pretty radically here, and the Democrats are the ones who move them. Here's where President Trump, however, could be really effective, and that is attacking the Democratic agenda, because the Democratic agenda truly is radical, and most people understand that. He has two lines of attack here that are really useful. One is attacking the media, because people hate the media. People think the media are dishonest. Why? Well, because many in the media are, in fact, dishonest, whether they mean to be or whether they do not mean to be. Their confirmation bias makes it so that they cover the news in the least favorable way to conservatives that they can possibly find, and that obviously holds true for anyone who is even remotely right of center, including President Trump, who I don't think is actually an ideological conservative. So when Trump goes after the media, that's going to be a popular line with most Americans. Here's Trump saying the media have to be held accountable.
They have to be, I'm sorry, they have to be accountable.
And he is not wrong about that. That line was popular going all the way back to Newt Gingrich in 2012 when he was running for the nomination for the Republican Party. It continues to be popular today. Nobody thinks the media have done a good job on any of this stuff. So that is a fruitful line of attack for President Trump. Casting aspersions at the media that have attacked him incessantly, that attacked Bush incessantly, that attack everybody right of center incessantly, and people who are not even right of center, so long as they disagree. That will continue to be a fruitful line of attack. But he's really going to have to win on the basis of pointing at the Democrats. As I have said all along, if President Trump were capable of just being quiet and pointing, right, like Donald Sutherland in that famous GIF, right? If he could just stand there, like Donald Sutherland from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and point in horror at the Democrats, most Americans would immediately recoil in revulsion at what they saw. Because the fact is, the Democratic agenda is extraordinarily radical. And when President Trump went after it last night, that's when he was, in fact, at his best. So here is the president of the United States talking about Democrats and taxes.
Radical Democrats are the party of high taxes, open borders, late-term abortion, crime, hoaxes, and delusions. The Republican Party is the party for all Americans. It's what we want to be. It's the way we want to live. We're the party of the American worker, the American family, and we are the party of the American dream.
Okay, all of that is true, and that should be the basis of his campaign. I think it will be. If he can stay on teleprompter and not talk too much about pencil necks he doesn't like, then I think the president should probably be okay. I'm much more optimistic about his hopes for 2020 than I was, say, 6 months ago, when it seemed like the Democrats might, in fact, get their act together and not be crazy. But now the Democrats continue to double down on crazy. We'll get to more of President Trump's 2020 line of attack in just a second. So the president then started to get into the details. He started talking about the Green New Deal. The best boon that Trump has ever received is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC is the id of the Democratic Party in the same way that Trump is the id of the Republican Party. AOC and her agenda are nuts. So nuts, she didn't get a single vote in favor of a Green New Deal bill co-sponsored by 12 separate senators on the Democratic side of the aisle. Not one of the co-sponsors of the bill voted for the bill. They all voted present on their own bill. Here's President Trump going after the stupid Green New Deal. Again, this is going to be a fruitful line of attack for Republicans and for the president.
The Democrats are now advancing an extreme $100 trillion government takeover called the Green New Deal. But I'd rather not talk about it tonight because I don't want to talk them out of it too soon. Because I love campaigning against the Green New Deal. I want them to make that a big part of their platform. No more airplanes, no more cows. One car per family. One car. Oh, you're going to love that in Michigan. Hey, how do you like the idea of one car per family? I don't think so. That's right.
This is where Trump is at his best. Comedy riffing on the Democrats? Yeah, man, I'm in for it. I'm in for it. Like, really, this is good stuff. Listen to him go off on the power of windmills. The Democrats have been talking about the power of windmills for a long time, how wind power is suddenly going to power the United States. Fact, if you actually wanted to equal the amount of power that is currently being output by all of the carbon-based fuel systems in the United States, not including transportation, right, just the electrical grid, you would have to cover an area the size of California in windmills. That's what you would have to do. So good luck with that. Here's President Trump going after the windmills.
If Hillary got in, you wouldn't have that stat, I can tell you right now. You'd be doing windmills, and if it doesn't blow, you can forget about television for that night. Darling, I want to watch television. I'm sorry, the wind isn't blowing. I know a lot about wind.
A little tag. I know a lot about wind. Come on, he's so funny. If you can't laugh, then you have a heart of stone. This is one of the reasons he's president is because of this. I will say this: negative Trump is not as much fun as positive Trump, and this is true for every politician. Politicians who look like they're having a good time are more likely to win. This was true of Obama in 2008. He looked like he was having a better time than John McCain. It was true of 2012. Obama looked like he was having a better time than Mitt Romney. It was true of George W. Bush, who always looked like he was having a pretty good time. Sour Trump is not going to be supremely popular because people don't like sour people. But Trump laughing at the Democrats along with people, it's not a bad look for him. It really is not. And then President Trump goes after the Democrats for wanting to destroy people's private health insurance plans. He is not wrong about this either. Again, all he has to do is just point at the Democrats. If the American public focus on President Trump leading up to 2020, he's going to lose. If they focus on the Democrats, he will win.
The Democrats are pushing socialist, government-run health care that bans private health insurance for 180 million Americans. Now think of it. A lot of you have private plans, and they're great. They're great. And you want that. They want to take them away. That's not going to work. I don't think that's going to work too well.
Of course, all of that is true. And then Trump goes after Democrats on abortion. And again, here he is correct again. This is clip 12.
In recent months, the Democrat Party has also been aggressively pushing extreme late-term abortion, allowing children to be ripped from their mother's womb right up until the moment of birth. And now we go a step further. In Virginia, the governor stated that he would even allow a newborn baby, wrap the baby up, make the baby comfortable, to be executed after birth.
Okay, again, all of this is accurate. The press will paint this as inaccurate. It is, in fact, not. They're trying to paint it as inaccurate when he went after the Green New Deal on the basis of even Democrats not supporting it. Here is Trump saying that Mazie Hirono, who is, in fact, perhaps the dumbest person in the United States Senate, which is a hell of a statement because there are a lot of dummies there. Here is President Trump suggesting that even Mazie Hirono knows that the Democratic Green New Deal is a mess.
She didn't know about the Green New Deal. And they hit her. And she's from Hawaii. What do you think of the Green New Deal? It was just put up by the Democrats. Well, I like it very much. But she never saw it. Then they said, but you can't fly anymore. And she's in Hawaii. She said, but how would I get to my island? They said, we're working on some kind of a train system. So she said, okay, well then I am for it 100%. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, and this, of course, is a little bit apocryphal, but it is true that Mazie Hirono did ask some questions about how you would get rid of airplanes since she is, in fact, the senator from Hawaii. Now, what are the obstacles for President Trump leading up to 2020? Well, obstacle number one is President Trump saying stuff that is stupid, right? President Trump deciding to focus on issues that the American people aren't really focused on, or him deciding to fulminate about the Mueller report for the next couple of years, or him deciding that he is simply going to call names at the Democrats as opposed to going after their policies, which, again, is a fruitful line of attack. That could hurt him because, remember, it's not just about him getting out the base. The Republicans got out the base in 2018, and they lost by 8.6 points in the House popular vote. This is really going to be about, can President Trump convince suburban women that Democrats are too dangerous for them? He doesn't have to convince them that he is the man for suburban women. He does have to convince suburban women that voting against their own interest would be a bad idea and that the Democrats are so radical that they'd be voting against their own interests in voting for Democrats. Obstacle number one is the president's personality. Obstacle number two is going to be the possibility of an economic downturn. And we are watching that. The economy is, in fact, slowing right now. We will see whether it slows enough to actually slide into a downturn or whether it maintains its sort of low-level growth. He can survive low-level growth. If it downturns, he's got a problem. And then obstacle number three is the possibility that there are more headlines that are bad for him in sort of the Mueller, Michael Cohen, SDNY stuff. I think that possibility has been reduced pretty dramatically. I'll explain why in just 1 second. First, let's talk about your holster. We the People holsters. They offer custom-made holsters, all produced in the USA. They design their own holsters in-house, which means they don't use any third-party molds for their holsters. Instead, they design every unique mold in Las Vegas in order to best fit every firearm perfectly. They constantly update designs. They add new designs every month. That lets them stay up to date on the newest models that come out. We the People holsters even have their own 3D design team. They measure every micromillimeter of their guns to ensure the perfect fit. Their unique, intuitive clip design allows for you to easily adjust both the cant and the ride of your holster so it fits comfortably and securely at all times. Every holster also has adjustable retention, which is signaled with a click sound, which lets you know that your firearm is securely in place. Custom printed designs in-house. I mean, these are beautiful holsters. I have one of them. They are terrific. And they just start at $37 a piece. Every holster comes with a lifetime guarantee. Every holster also ships free. So that is one hell of a deal for a great holster. If it is not a perfect fit, you send it back for a refund. Right now, my listeners can go to wethepeopleholsters.com/Ben, enter promo code Ben at checkout, and get $10 off their first holster. So that's as low as $37, and shipping is free, and an additional $10 off using my promo code. So like $27 for a holster that is customized, essentially. It's pretty amazing. Again, that's wethepeopleholsters.com/Ben. Promo code Ben at checkout for $10 off. Go check them out right now. Great American company. wethepeopleholsters.com/Ben. Go check them out. Okay, so as I say, there's also the possibility that more headlines arise that are bad for President Trump in a legal sense. Now, I do think that the vast majority of that is over. I think that it's over because the American public had already moved toward the conclusion that the Mueller report was going to be a nothing. More Americans thought that it was a quote-unquote witch hunt than thought it was legit by the time that the report was actually released. By the time that the top line findings were released, most Americans were tired of this. Now they know the top line findings. So if there's a 300-page report that just reveals all the stuff we already know about Trump, I'm not sure that goes anywhere. Also, it casts everything in a different light that Mueller has already exonerated Trump on the collusion stuff. Now we look at all of the contacts between members of the Trump team and members of the Russian government, and we say, yeah, they're just doofuses. Before, normally, there's so many human actions where we can either attribute malice or stupidity to people. Now, Adam Carolla, podcast host, friend of mine, makes this point with regard to cops pulling people over. So what Adam says is, let's say you're pulled over unjustly, right? You're not speeding, you're pulled over. If you're a white guy, you think, this cop is a dummy. If you're a black guy, you probably think, this cop is a racist. Which one is true? Well, in all likelihood, it's that the person is stupid because most people make mistakes. Most people are dumb. Most people make dumb mistakes. And so if you're looking at the actions of Team Trump and you are thinking that it was all nefarious criminality, and then Mueller comes out and says, no, it wasn't nefarious criminality. We looked at every aspect of this. It recasts everything as comedic as opposed to tragic. It recasts everything as these people were just dumb and incompetent as opposed to they were maliciously trying to interfere with the election. And so you go back and you look at people like George Papadopoulos, low-level Trump foreign policy aide, who met with a London professor who was in fact a Russian front. And here's Papadopoulos explaining that President Trump, when he was talking during the campaign about how much he liked Vladimir Putin, that basically President Trump just wanted a better relationship with Russia. That's all this was.
By the time I joined the campaign in March of 2016, candidate Donald Trump was obviously very vocal about having some sort of working relationship with Russia. I told Donald Trump to his face and Jeff Sessions to his face at that infamous March 31st meeting that I can do this for you, and I think it's in the interest of the campaign. Jeff Sessions was very enthusiastic about it, and I proceeded until the campaign basically decided that it was better not to. I do think there was obviously a strategic logic behind working with Russia. Look, at the end of the day, if we don't work with Russia, China's a huge threat to U.S. interests. They're in Syria, they're in eastern Ukraine, and that's what my firm belief is why Donald Trump wanted to work with Russia.
So without Mueller's report, people would say, this is obviously him lying. Right? Obviously what he was trying to do was corrupt the 2016 election. With Mueller's report, just looks like the guy's being a dummy. Same thing is true for Donald Trump Jr. meeting with that Russian lawyer, Natalia Veselnitskaya. Right? Rob Goldstone was the go-between. He's a music agent. He was the go-between on that deal. He was the one saying the Russians want to give you all sorts of info about Hillary Clinton. And here is Rob Goldstone saying, Donald Trump Jr. was down the chain. I mean, this is all just stupid stuff.
I never considered Don Jr. really a part of the campaign. You may have seen it, again, it's in public testimony. I questioned whether I should send it to Mr. Trump via some method, whether it's his assistant. And then I decided to go way down on the food chain. And I chose Don Jr., because I'd met him a couple of times, to run it past him enough to put him in touch with my client. I think I was ignorant and oblivious. And I think if I had to guess, he was marginally more or marginally less ignorant and oblivious than I was.
Right. And that's absolutely plausible. I mean, folks, if you're not watching the video, if you can't actually see the video of Rob Goldstone, look at that guy and tell me that he's a criminal mastermind who is somehow linking up the Russian government with the Trump campaign so as to pervert America's elections. Guy's a doofus. He's a doofus. And so the Mueller report does, in many ways, allow us to see through the prism that I've been using all along, which is that most people are stupid rather than malicious. Nonetheless, Democrats are still trying to hang their last hopes on the Mueller report. They're trying to suggest that maybe there's something in the Mueller report that was not revealed in Attorney General William Barr's synopsis of the Mueller report. The Wall Street Journal reporting today, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi criticized Attorney General William Barr on Thursday over his handling of the special counsel's report, pressing the case for the full release of the document as President Trump and Republicans continue to claim vindication in the Russia probe. Pelosi said that the summary Barr provided to lawmakers last weekend was well short of what Congress required. Show us the report and we can draw our own conclusions, she said. She said, we don't need you interpreting it for us, to William Barr. She said it was condescending, it was arrogant, it wasn't the right thing to do, right? She would have preferred another month of speculation over the Mueller report to simply understanding the top line results and revelation of the report itself, which will happen in the next few weeks. Okay, this thing is not going to remain secret. Democrats who are hoping that there will be some other breaking news, here's what's going to happen. The 300-page report will come out. There will be a couple of details that we didn't know about. And the media will blow these up to cataclysmic proportions. They will suggest that William Barr, the Attorney General, shut down an actual obstruction charge, that actually there was deep corruption, that actually, even though Mueller concluded no collusion, there was in fact deep-seated collusion. And the American public will go, nope, sorry. You guys said that Mueller was going to save all of you. He didn't. So, nope, you're done. You don't get a second bite at this apple. You do not get a second shot at bat after you spend some $25 million with 40 DOJ attorneys on this case and worship at the altar of Robert Mueller. He doesn't give you what you want. You don't get to change your God now. That is not something that you get to do. So I don't think Trump is particularly vulnerable there, which means that the chief obstacle to President Trump's reelection is not going to be from Mueller. Now, maybe there's an obstacle from the SDNY. Maybe the SDNY brings down some sort of campaign finance charge against President Trump. But even that, I really don't see a world where the American public care very much about that sort of stuff. It's all baked into the cake. The collusion stuff was not baked into the cake. It wasn't. It might have been the only thing not baked into Trump's cake because the accusation was so incredibly wide, broad, and scary that if it had been true, it would have taken down Trump. But campaign finance stuff, him paying off ladies, that ain't going to cut it. That ain't going to cut it, which means that the chief obstacle to Trump's reelection remains President Trump's personality. Can he be disciplined in any way? And if he can be disciplined, if he allows the focus to be on the Democrats, I think that he has a pretty good shot at reelection, which is something I didn't think I'd be saying 6 months ago. Okay, in a second, we're going to get to updates on the Jussie Smollett case, and we'll jump into the mailbag. But first, go subscribe over at dailywire.com. We had a great episode of Daily Wire Backstage last night. If you were a subscriber, you could have asked questions. In fact, if you subscribed during the broadcast of Backstage last night, then you actually had a shot at coming out here. We would have flown you out here, put you up in a hotel, and allowed you to come watch the Daily Wire Backstage and suffer along with me, listening to Michael Knowles talk while wearing shorts. That could have been you in that room suffering. I know it sounds more like a threat than an incentive, but it is, actually. As a thank you to our Daily Wire annual subscribers, for $99 a year, you get the annual subscription, which comes along with this, the greatest in beverage vessels, that Leftist Tears hot or cold tumbler. You can go get that right now. And as a thank you to our Daily Wire annual subscribers, we give a shout out to a different subscriber each Friday. Today, Karnak the Magnificent at Biffnola. We would like to thank you for being a magnificent subscriber. With a name like Karnak, I can't say I'm surprised. I expected it. You can see in this photo, the Karnak Magnificent has placed his Leftist Tears tumbler next to his shower drain, which is wise and prudent. Because this week, Leftist Tears tumblers across the land were overflowing. There were reports of flash floods. It was actually very dangerous. We urge our subscribers to emulate Karnak and place their tumblers near to high-capacity drains until further notice. Karnak the Magnificent, thank you for being a subscriber. We appreciate it. And if you want a chance at being featured on the show, become a Daily Wire annual subscriber right now. Post a photo of your tumbler on Twitter or Instagram. You can even be in the photo if you'd like, unless Karnak is the shower drain, in which case he is in the photo. So that's exciting. Okay, go check all of that out. You get all sorts of goodies. 2 additional hours a day. We're working hard for the money. I mean, we are working hard for you folks. We've got an entire team of people working hard to bring you great content every day. What comes out is very often mediocre, but you're just going to have to deal with that. Go check it out right now. Annual subscription, $99 a year. Also subscribe YouTube, iTunes, so many goodies I didn't even mention when you become a subscriber. Leave us a review at iTunes, by the way. That always helps us in the rankings. We are the largest, fastest growing conservative podcast and radio show in the nation.